Morning everyone, and thank you for this great opportunity, CITA, the great speakers, topics that was discussed, very interesting, and also our fellow competitors in this challenge. Interesting work being done, and looking forward to seeing the final presentation. So without further ado, I'll start with ours, my name is Evan Adam. I'm from Accent Property, and I'm the Divisional Director of Asset Management and also Head of Asset Information Management.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ian Kelly. I'm with Topaz Energy in the engineering team, and between myself and Evan will be delivering most of this presentation with backing vocals from the rest of the Spice Girls.
And then, of course, the rest of our team members, as you might have seen in the booklet, our poster printed in there. DFM Systems, experts in document management systems and construction software. Portobello Institute, you might be familiar with them, Further Educational College and BIM faculty. Autodesk, global software developers of CAD products, and ArcDocs, leading BIM specialists. And this slide here gives a brief overview of our team and the subject matters of our challenge. And in short, what we set out to do is to solve the problem, which is information, find a solution in arranging the information in such a way that it can engage the leading stakeholders, and with an effect where it can drive BIM past the construction phase into a living BIM system which would be used throughout the entire life cycle of the property asset. And just by listening to all the topics being discussed today, there was a couple of, actually many repetitions of similar words: models, collaboration, the list goes on. And it just dawned on me that each and every different stakeholder presenting their topics shared exactly the same collaborative aspects, and which made this challenge very interesting for us. Sorry, just one slide too far. So we start with the problem, and the problem we are faced with is disconnected systems.
When Accent first approached us about this project, I was very excited. It was put to me, how often are you chasing different pieces of information, and they're all stored. If they're stored electronically, they're stored in different areas, and you're chasing through different folders on your hard drive or on your network. Or if they're stored on paper, even more headaches of finding exactly where they were and retrieving them in a usable format. So when I was approached about this, I thought this was absolutely excellent. So I asked, what's required on my end? So very quickly an email was sent, and I was looking for different bits of pieces of information to supply for this model. And I said to myself, wouldn't it be great if all this is really easily accessible? So straight away we saw what the problem was, and we saw that we needed a solution to it.
And in fact, that brings us to the beginning of our challenge, which is we need to use BIM to solve this problem. And in this case, the client Topaz kindly provided the headquarters building to retro BIM a model. And as Ian just alluded there, the problem was instantly recognized. Information was disconnected, information was inaccurate, information was a problem. And referring back to Chuck Eastman's point earlier, garbage in, garbage out, that became a challenge in itself. To what level of detail do you build this model? Surely from a retro build, you can only detail the model with the amount of detail the client provides you. So we've learned along the way and also experience how the BIM model can be used with different levels of detail. This all pointed out the further problems, traditional methods being how the information is stored, still on paper, majority of it, having to rely on scanning equipment to digitize the information. Also the lack of access to actually go and find the information. Could be a box somewhere stored in a basement, it could be in a file on somebody else's desk. Disconnections, not only with the actual physical files and information based on paper, but through the various systems that's being used around the building. BMS systems, CAFM systems, management systems, the list goes on.
Just one further point on what Professor Eastman mentioned earlier as well, is about whose responsibility it is and how do we actually update the documents we have. And again, some of the documents that we were trying to provide for this challenge, we realised very quickly an awful lot of these documents are out of date. So again, the living BIM aspect of things, we look at this, you have, and everyone in this room understands the full potential of BIM in terms of construction and handover. So if you have that up-to-date information available, it's bordering on negligence to not use it and not maintain that and gain the benefits from that going forward.
Absolutely, and which brings us to the following slide. And just to reiterate, in the beginning there was no BIM. We decided at the last moment that there was also a bit of a competition here with the audio abilities. So we've graphed this in, but just a brief outline. This takes us through the actual model building process, which ArcDocs were very, very good at. Again, it's a retrospective build process based on information requests from the client. Getting that information, you actually get to build the model, and then it is a constant collaboration back and forth. The model is built. Let's see what level of detail we can now extract from that for the client. There might be some further necessities. It would spark further requirements for more information, feed that back in. So it's a continuous development process in itself, the retro BIM build process. And those were done with Revit, Navisworks, Glue, XBIM, physical surveys, and so forth.
So as the project progressed, the more information that was being asked and the more that was being provided, I started getting more and more excited about the actual workshop. I started having ideas in my head about, why are we limiting this to solely the physical building and that? Why don't we take it further? As I pretty much wear two hats in Topaz. One is looking after the head office building, another is looking after 125 geographically dispersed retail sites. So as I said, I was exceptionally excited to get into the workshop on the Monday, not just because I could slag Evan over South Africa taking a beating by Ireland, but also I saw the opportunity in terms of our retail network. By the very nature of our business, we have a high staff turnover, so keeping people trained and keeping people up to date with what they're expected, it's a continual challenge for us. So I was thinking about it, and I said, why don't we incorporate everything we can into this? Why don't we have our training on this? Why don't we have our health and safety on this? So we came up with a concept that we should be tagging every asset we have. And something as simple as we do a lot of training already digitally. We consider ourselves a progressive company and would like to do a lot of different activities digitally. So as I said, thinking about this, what I saw was the limit on this, once you have the information digitally, the limit on this is your imagination. What do you want to connect to this? So in terms of the training, one of the pieces we saw was, could we actually get the site staff, because they have mobile devices on site for training purposes already, but could we not get them to diagnose problems? Could we not get them to scan the code on the piece of equipment and go through a fault diagnostic and streamline the processes rather than a back and forth of, can you tell me, is this light on? Can you tell me, is that light on? Can you tell me, is it plugged in? If we had some system of eliminating all the back and forth and getting to the root cause of the problem immediately, we thought this would be ideal.
Absolutely, and this assisted our project and very much, and which brings me on to the next slide, and seeing that that we've got 5 minutes left to summarize this huge problem and the solution that we found. And this indicates to us the disconnected systems in the middle column. Those systems, the data is not that reliable. Copies of copies, versions that's not clear. Specifically with some plans, which was the starting point, is to get plans of the current building. Immediately looking at the plans, it was realized that some recent fit-outs weren't drawn up in it. So the shortcomings became instantly clear. The platforms, some of them were there, drawings, schedules, the model server, which is, as we saw in the video, the retro BIM model was based on, which is the model authoring tool. And then we realized, going over to the exchange column, information wasn't being exchanged. The information stopped between these disconnected systems. There was no exchange, which couldn't give the client a single platform to view the information that, in our case, the client wants to view, but any stakeholder, for that matter, that would find a use in it.
And I suppose, again, looking at it from my perspective as the end user, it has to be something that A, I am going to use, and B, other people within the organisation are going to use. There's all, within the client Topaz, there are a number of sub-clients. So the solution that I propose, and I'm in a very happy position to demand whatever I want and leave the experts to deliver it for me, no matter how difficult it is, I suggest, why don't we have a dashboard? And that dashboard can be configurable. So there'll be multiple levels of dashboard. So the dashboard I would see would be something, for example, a map of Ireland that we could drill into, and then that would go into the different regions, and then from the regions I could go down to the different sites, and from the sites I could go down to the different pieces of equipment. The regional managers obviously would not necessarily need to see the whole island of Ireland, so they'd have their regions. The site managers obviously again wouldn't even need to see the regions, so they'd have their dashboard set up at site level.
And this is how, with our collaboration here, the team of experts, having the industry knowledge, having the experience, but also then have the keen spirit to challenge ourselves in our own profession and acknowledge the problems, acknowledge the shortcomings, but then push it further to find the breakthrough. And some lively debates ensued throughout the workshop, but this is the result. If I can skip back to this is where we started, and this is the end result. End result is a more organized structure, an information exchange because of the organized structure, and the ability to map and loop the workflows, which in our vision was, during the life cycle of the property, certain aspects about the building, updates, changes, whether it's daily, monthly, or yearly. But somewhere that information needs to feed back into the BIM model, so that your BIM model can be used as a reference tool, and that through that reference tool, you'll be able to continuously update the information to mitigate the risk of duplication, incorrect versions, but then also putting a platform in place that you could store, perhaps not centrally, and that's still being debated between the stakeholders, but in the very least have connected systems so that the building owner, and in our case the client Topaz, so that he has instant access and reference to all of the systems that comprise his property asset.
And just to emphasise the point, again, with such high levels of staff turnover, we can't afford to be spending time training the whole time. So what this system does is, rather than replace any systems that people are already used to using, it overlays them all, connects them, helps them talk to each other. So there's no duplication of data in this. So if something is updated in one section, whether it be in our EDMS or CMMS or health and safety system, that is then accessible through the portal that sits over it, i.e. this dashboard.
Just noting the time being 15 minutes at the moment, there's so much depth in these processes, and we were very keen to present it, but it's not possible within the limited time span. So this is just a summary overview, and I know the team would be more than eager to have separate discussions, about the detail of this. So with that in mind, I'm going to move forward to the output of the system, client-driven. Perhaps a simple term, everybody's familiar with it, the dashboard, but the dashboard contains the key information that the client requires, and that which the client would want to see at an eye shot.
And as the client, I'm fully aware of the time, so to be quick, as the client, internally it's my job to sell this to the people who are holding the purse strings in Topaz. So how do we do that? And just to quote the figures Professor Lee quoted earlier, 300 billion spent in US in construction on an annual basis, but 3 trillion spent on ongoing maintenance. So, for example, we know from the data that we collect in Topaz that approximately 25% of all maintenance calls are actually related to something the site haven't done or something the site have done and have done incorrectly. So if we can eliminate half of those, you're talking 12.5%. If that's across the industry, 12.5% of 3 trillion is 375 billion. So you're straight, and that's every single year. So you're straight away getting to a stage where you've got a 3 years building. And enough money left over to sit down with Bill Gates in Vegas. So.
Amazing figures, and I think it just shows how much scope there is for having a system like Living BIM. Living BIM is not a single software solution that we developed. Living BIM inherits and use the same principles that BIM as a system and as a process use. Where BIM is through the design construction phase, Living BIM is a continuous process throughout the entire life cycle of the property.
Thank you. Are we ready for a few questions?
We are. We'd like to also demo a very briefly,
okay,
within 10 seconds.
10 seconds.
Just one of the tools.
I'm a softie. I'm giving you.
We earlier one of the topics or discussions referred to engaging the stakeholders, and this tool with the expert knowledge there of our friend at Autodesk, Manu Venugopal, we came to this tool to show you what we're going to now, and it will be engaging the client.
So I suppose, can anyone at all suggest any piece of equipment that you might find in an office building, and we'll show you how quickly and easily we can access that within our model.
A photocopier.
Pump it is.
I can see immediately there's obviously a security interface between it.
That's all right.
We're not hooked up.
That's not so right. No, it's not showing.
Do you need the network?
We can go through the questions, and when I get this on.
Okay. So while we're going to have another try to get that video, have you any questions here for this right away here?
Just, in the UK, in the idea of these global information systems, they try to do it with the health service. Do you really think it's going to have the impact and the use of pulling all these different sets of data together? The IT industry's had a lot of failures in trying to do a global system that incorporates, everybody's health records or something like that. And even the government can't put together our social security with our tax records, with our medical cards. So it just seems, how populated is your dashboard?
At the moment, it's testing concept, which we're confident we have proved throughout the workshop. As the client in this, we're so confident of this that we've actually retained Accent Property, to progress this from not quite new build stage. We're in the process of building the site at the moment, and we're going to BIM that site, and we're trying to put in all these layers at the moment. So as a company, Topaz definitely see the value of this, and in terms of the living BIM piece and keeping it going, we're looking at re-BIMing some of our existing network. So I'm confident that it will work on this trial site that we're doing. And if we prove the concept on that, we're going to start going back and re-BIMing everything. So again, as I said, your imagination is the limit on this. Once the information is in digital format, accessing that is key. So some information you may need to access very, very infrequently. So as we go back to re-BIM, obviously there's a cost to everything we put into it. So we're going to start at a high level and see the benefits from there.
Ray, again. Sure.
I suppose a lot of those sort of systems, they're looking at global systems, they're looking at them as sort of single systems. I think that's where the failure is. The NHS is trying to put a system together that does anything, or the HSE. I think what the view we took was, you're not going to find one system that does everything you want to do for the life cycle of a building. There's going to be lots of different systems. So rather than focusing on trying to come up with all singing, all dancing system, try and connect the systems. And the example I use is always is like the airlines. When you go and look for a flight, travel agents, there isn't a travel agent system that has all the flight schedules downloaded, and basically they just connect to the different airlines' flight schedules. And at the time of making the query, it goes and gets the information it needs. So just by making those sort of connections, rather than trying to build a big system, I think that's the sort of idea we were exploring.
Sorry. What performance metrics have you identified for facility management optimization?
Certainly downtime, obviously. I mean, not just in terms of having to send someone out to repair different pieces of equipment, but the lost opportunity for sale that's certainly the key one. I wouldn't be in the space in Topaz that I'm looking at the construction side, but as I alluded to earlier, everyone here knows the benefits of it on the construction side. So we're more focused on is the living element of it. So the key metric then is definitely downtime.
Are we ready, Evan, to try?
It seems the Wi-Fi is letting us down.
They had that problem at the web summit here too.
A disconnection.
Beg your pardon? Yes, please.
Thank you everybody for your time, and thank you for the challenge.